What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. The third episode of Atlanta Season 2 aired last night, so let's talk about this. Titled Money Bag Shawty, this episode really explored my distaste for Earnest having money. As I said before, Earnest is always going to be broke because he just doesn't know how to act with money. And I think that this episode kind of sums it up even more. So the big story, the whole basis of this episode is that Earn has finally seen a check from Paperboy's single. So now he wants to go out and stunt. He wants to live large. He wants to have fun and spend all this money at one time. And it's just like, I get the whole idea of treating yourself, but in one night, Earnest ends up doing 3 different things. So Earn and Vanessa go out to a movie theater and they try to go see a movie, but Earn wants to pay with the $100 bill. He's like, it's legal tender. But he kind of gets profiled in a sense because they won't accept his $100 bill. So they end up leaving. But as they're leaving, there's like a white person behind them that gives 100 and is accepted. So that same $100 bill comes back to continue playing a role throughout the night. Their next destination is a club. He pays with the 100, and then it turns out that the 100 might be fake, but it turns out that it's not, and for some reason the club promoter was just tripping, so it caused more problems that night. Their final destination was a strip club where they met up with Paperboy, Darius, and Tracy. And man, I'm watching this scene and I'm just like, yo, Earn is like too crazy. He's too loose with his money. So for starters, Earn wants to get a bunch of ones. That makes sense. Everybody wants to have ones when you're in a strip club. However, when he goes up to the bar to exchange the money, it turns out that the bar or the strip club in general has a rule that they get 20% of the money for an exchange. So that's 20% of $100, but here's the real kicker, is they have a $200 minimum. So that's 40% of $200. And Earn pays that. Earn does it. I'm sitting here like, why? It's just, you could probably leave the strip club. I don't know how strip club work because I've never been to one. You could probably like get a stamp or something and come right back, or at least plan ahead. I think if Earn wanted to stunt and he knew he was going to a strip club, why would you not plan ahead and get some ones? It's just very poor. And then like there's other charges, like they thought they were getting a free bottle, but you only get a free bottle when you pay for one bottle, and that bottle happens to be $200. He pays that. He tries to give Vanessa a lap dance from a stripper, and she just walks over to Vanessa and then walks back to Earn and says, you owe me $20. Literally like 3-4 seconds. Earn is too loose with his money. And again, it's not a lot of money, but it's like, when you look at the night, when you think about it, was it really all worth it? Didn't spend any money at the movie theater, that's fine. He did spend some money at the club because despite getting his $100 bill back, the club promoter said, you already stepped foot, so you have to pay. So that's $20 out of his pocket. And then the strip club is where he spends the most money. Not to mention, rented a limo. So it's like, he's trying to stunt too hard. And it's like, at the end of the day, that's not the smartest decision for someone like Earn, who's had to struggle a lot through season 1. On the flip side, we have a small little B story where Paperboy and Darius went to the studio with Clark County, who was introduced in episode 2. He was the guy, the rapper who's got his own commercial for Yoo-Hoo. And it's a very interesting scene because you get to see the differences between Paperboy and Clark in how they act. But in reality, you look at Clark and he is essentially Paperboy, but he puts on a better face. I think when you're in the eyes of the public, Clark is definitely more of like a friendly person. He tries to front like he's a friendly person. And Paperboy is just like, you know what, I don't give a damn. And so that's the difference between them. And you start to see like the reasons why Clark is able to get all these different commercials. He's able to get on the Fast and Furious soundtrack. It makes a lot of sense because he knows how to play the game essentially. But in the studio, it's kind of weird. Like it's such a weird vibe. Paperboy is like, okay, you want to smoke? He says he doesn't smoke. You want to drink? He doesn't drink. But then he gets in the studio and starts recording a song where he talks about smoking and drinking. It's ridiculous. It's the ridiculousness of Atlanta. I do have to say that there was one line from Clark's raps that really stood out. He said, I just bought a dinosaur like I'm Nicolas Cage. That is funny. Speaking of lyrics, they started this episode differently than they have the first two. So Screenwriter, who commented on my review for episode 2, pointed out that both episodes started out with robberies. And so I was like, okay, I didn't even notice that. And the third episode breaks that trend real quick. So last year or the year before, we had the older white lady who was so offended by Vince Staples' lyrics. She made that video. She was damn near crying throughout it, trying to recite the lyrics. So we get that same kind of parody with Atlanta for another Paperboy single. And it ends up working because it ends up being a successful hit for him. It's interesting how much the music plays a role in Atlanta without being like the main factor. Like we see like the viral moments, we see the money coming in, but we don't see like too much of the music. Like it's if you were to break it down, I would say it's maybe like, I don't know. It's hard to give a percentage, like maybe less than 50% of the show. I thought this whole little opening segment was just the best because the lyrics are so hilariously bad. I'm listening to them like, okay, these sound believable. Believable as lyrics, but they're just bad. He says, I might have to slap a trick. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick. Like, those are lines that you know could actually be real. Those are lines that you hear that could possibly exist in our real world. A couple other small things to note. I love Paperboy's rise in the rap game because it feels accurate. They're at a little bar towards the beginning of the episode, and this man comes up. He's an employee. And eventually, you know, he tries to give him free shots, you know, butter them up. And then eventually he's like, yo, you should put me on. And he cussed out Earnest. It was hilarious. Like, Ernest was like, we're kind of off the clock. He's like, I'm not talking to you. Shut the fuck up. And Ernest just like, okay. And Paperboy just doesn't have much of a reaction to it. He's just like, you know, whatever, you know, cool. Like, he does not care about the fame at all. And it doesn't affect him that people are trying to, like, use him, which is strange to me. I think Paperboy, with the way he acts and the anger that he has, he would be in a position where he's just, like, fed up with it. I think we'll see, like, a breaking point at some point. Another thing was in the studio when they were talking about, you know, how Clark County is able to get all these endorsements, these commercials, and it further hints at the rift that could be coming between Earnest and Paperboy. Because Clark basically says, you know, you want to do this, you got to work with Lucas, who's his manager. And you see, like, I don't know what Paperboy's feeling like because he doesn't really express too much emotion. But you can tell, like, in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking, well, damn, maybe I could use him to get further in my career than what Earn's doing. So again, it kind of hints at that potential rift. And then lastly, the ending of the episode is with people outside of the strip club racing Mike Vick. It's such an Atlanta way to end the episode. And so Earnest is like, you know what? I'm going to try to race him. Because someone told him that he raced like 6 times in 10 minutes. And Earnest thinks, oh, I can beat him. And so they give us this like start where it seems like Earn could win. Like as soon as it goes 3, 2, 1, go! and it pauses to kind of symbolize that Earn might be winning, I guess. I guess that's the feeling that I got when I watched it. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is how the episode ends, and this is going to be like a tall tale. Earnest is going to be like telling everybody he beat Mike Vick. And then one day maybe it turns out that Mike Vick shows up and says that he didn't. I don't know. Maybe I was just... my mind races a lot. But they fast forward. The last scene of the episode is them in the car. And they're not talking. They're not like snuggled up or anything. Earn looks like he's so depressed, and Vanessa says it's Mike Vick. And she says it in a way that's like, feels like she's kind of scolding him for his stupidity. Like, why would you bet it's Mike Vick? It's not her trying to like reassure him, like, you know, it's okay, it's Mike Vick. So those are just a few thoughts that I had about Atlanta, third episode of season 2, Bag Shawty. After you watch this episode, or if you've watched this episode already, I want to know what you think about it in the comment section below. What was your favorite moment? How are you feeling about Atlanta season 2 so far? Talk to me in the comment section below, and then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter @SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.